Happy Tuesday, September 3rd. Hope you guys had a good Labor Day weekend. And now the markets are open for a 4-day week. And let's get started here with the QQQ as usual. Just going to take a look here, and we're going to see that pre-market, it's down a little bit, like 4 points almost, 3.38. Yeah, so essentially it looks like things are going to be opening up around a support level down here. So the new day will open here a little bit around the bottom of the cloud on the daily chart. So QQQ probably just going to be stuck in this range, right? Maybe just for today or tomorrow. We'll see what happens, but it looks like it could start to go either way coming like uh, Tuesday or Wednesday, right? Maybe around here it could either go up or come back down to test the cloud at like 463. So we'll keep an eye on that later this week, but things could be looking like they want to maybe retest a support after getting kind of rejected by a resistance up top. So just got to get a little bit more patience with the QQQ. So no rush, I think, because it's just looking like it's stuck. And SPY, it's looking a little bit better than the QQQ. It's still holding its support of 559 pretty well. So that has a potential to keep going up, right? It really does. But we need to understand that if that daily 559 level starts to break, then price could come back down and test the cloud as well, which could be a little bit farther away than what the QQQs are right now. So essentially, it's just near a top. It's not looking like it's ready to break out yet. But as soon as there is like a daily candle close into the all-time highs, I think it could go higher from there. But until then, it's still stuck near a resistance zone. Good morning. Anything brewing with SoFi? Yeah, I'll take a look at SoFi. Just 1 second. First, IWM. Same thing, right? It's near a resistance level up here, the 221. I've been saying 221 for a long time. And sure enough, it keeps on getting rejected. So IWM is looking like it's going back down to test a support, possibly down to 217 or 216. And that could be a good zone right there to maybe hold for then maybe possibly later on this week. Price could break back above that resistance and continue. So we'll keep an eye on that 221 level throughout the whole week. Good morning, Fat Chin and Ivan. Good morning. Good morning. So SoFi, we can take a look at SoFi, see what's brewing with SoFi. I mean, daily chart says it might come back down to like the 775 zone, but weekly chart said the whole thing right here. It was resistance, right? Friday, I was telling everybody on X, like, it's that resistance, right? Whether it's here at 808 or here at 834, this is a resistance zone for SoFi, and sure enough, it closed below everything. So I could definitely see it coming back to like the 770 zone, maybe even 760 zone, just to retest the support. But all in all, it's making progress, right? Making lots of progress for higher highs, and I think given maybe another week or 2 or 3, there's a possibility to break above that resistance and continue higher. So it's headed in the right direction, but just still lots of resistance above. And Palantir. So Palantir here is just also still stuck, right? Pre-market it's at 31.31, and the levels I'm really watching are kind of in between here, right? My angle here down at 30.60, maybe even right here. Yeah, like 30.80. Maybe the arc up here, 31.80. So like a dollar range it's kind of stuck in. So we'll see. I still think it's closer to a resistance than it is a support, because even right here, that's resistance, even more resistance up here at 33. So can price get back above closer to 33, yeah, but I still think it's closer to a resistance than it is a support. So just I like it down 30 or below, and just right in the middle here, I'm just a little bit more cautious. So got to let it do its thing and either break this resistance above or get back down to support or a little bit lower. So that's what I'm thinking for Palantir. I still think it also has a possibility to go back to the 27 zone here too. But so far, that won't happen because the 618 fib, $30 is still holding for Palantir. Let's see. And of course, let's go take a look at Tesla pre-market. So Tesla here is looking like it's going to open up. Like I said last Friday, it's going to open up inside of the cloud, right? And maybe right up here around current price. So that'll be a good thing for price, right? That'll be good to be back inside the cloud. But still, no matter which way you look at it, there's going to be resistance above. And the resistance above is going to be starting at the 221, then up here at the 225, 226. And can't really get too excited about Tesla until it gets a weekly candle close back on top of this cloud. So until that happens, it's just going to be still stuck too. And it's getting closer and closer to more resistance on the way up. But the good news is for Tesla is I think that 213 level can hold. And simply because when you look on the monthly chart, you can see that it is back inside the monthly cloud as well. And the bottom of that cloud does sit around 213. So I think there's a good possibility this can be a pretty good support. Worst case, maybe even back down to these levels here, the 205, 208 level, right? That's also a possibility, but it's a good development, right? Step by step. But am I expecting a blowout week? I mean, it could happen, right? This could just close above everything and take everybody by surprise, right? So let's just take it day by day. And so far, it's up pre-market, and that's a good sign. But be mindful that on the daily chart, it's still kind of looking like it could be in a range, right? Still right here, support could be still like down that 208. Resistance still could be around the 215.50 level, right? And then there's more resistance up here before that 221 at 219. So just be mindful of all these areas. And I don't know if it's ready to just break out completely, but let's just take it one day at a time. Okay, crypto took a dump over the weekend and presented a healthy dip for buying. Could you compare versus prior dips to see how good of a buy zone? Well, I can just go by looking at Bitcoin here. And we'll take a look, pull it up. So essentially, this is what Bitcoin did, right? If you just drew a line like right here, straight across, you can see that all it did is get back to like some previous lows. Went a little bit below to those wicks right here. So yeah, that was a good opportunity, right? Because they held, right? But now it's like similar to everything right now. It's close to a resistance and it's also close to a support, which means it's just in a range. So I think if you're trying to compare it to past, it's kind of like in a range. Like maybe it's here before it wants to go up a little bit more, right? Or if you look maybe at when it's back in the cloud here, and then it went up a little bit, right? It could be doing something like that, like it's building a base within the cloud and then trying to go higher, right? But if you look at the past days or weeks, you can see every time it got back into the cloud, it got rejected, right? Here it got rejected, here it got rejected. Here is it going to get rejected again? See, this is the trend over the past couple of weeks, right? Maybe the past month, it's been the trend every time it's gotten to the top of the cloud, it's been resistance. So we need to recognize that trend and say, hey, let's be cautious because this is a resistance zone. So I'm not sure if it's ready to break out yet. So yeah, as far as Bitcoin goes, as far as crypto goes, I think it's just stuck. And it has to prove to us that it wants to go higher. And the first proof of that would be getting on top of this cloud. And building a base on top of 60,000 to continue higher. So if it can do that on a day-to-day basis, then I think it'll be different than these times. But if it can't do that, then I think it's probably going to come back down, maybe even retest these 57s, even possibly come back down to retest the 55 zone. So not out of the woods yet. Even this recovery seems good, but it's still stuck. Let's see here. Can help with TLT. Yeah, so TLT, looking at the daily chart, it's also kind of in a range, right? It's getting closer to resistance pre-market. You can see that right there. And I think that's the range, right? 98 down towards 96. That's the range. And I don't know if it's going to be breaking out of that 98 range. So does it look bullish? Yeah, the chart looks bullish on the daily chart. And the weekly chart also looks a little bullish too, because it did break out of the cloud and now it's back testing it. So I think there is a good possibility to hold this as a support to maybe continue higher. But one thing you have to pay attention to with TLT is this zone right here, this previous previous support zone. I can just take this off for you guys. It's a previous support zone. Flip to resistance. So is that exciting? Not really, right? If I was looking at a regular stock chart or any stock chart, I'd be like, well, it's still resistance. So why would I get excited about that? Like, I don't want to buy resistance, right? Even though that Ichimoku does look like it's building a base to go higher, right? It's still stuck. And until this starts to prove me wrong and closes candles above this, TLT just looks like it's at resistance and it's nothing to get excited about or bullish about. Okay, good morning. Love the chicken from Papa. Well, the announcements from ADS and the team in 3 hours. Pump price. Let's take a look at ADS. Let's see here. There, go down a little bit. So just looking at the GAN on linear alone, it's looking like it's back at a support, right? You can see that this was a support, then it flipped it to a resistance, and now it's back as a support so far, right? So can it just blast off into the 20s again? Probably not. And the reason really is because of the cloud above, right? So I don't see things just blasting off because you got resistance starting at 15.7 all the way up to 16.3. And that is going to be your zone until it can break, right? You can see last week it did wick above, but it couldn't hold, right? So could there be excitement and there could be a wick above? Yeah, but if it doesn't close above it again, then it'll still be a resistance. So you can't really get excited about that. All right. Good morning, Jules. Good morning, everybody. Let's see. NVIDIA. No, I'm going over NVIDIA right now. So this is, let's see, it's at 116. Yeah, I still think going back down to 113 is likely, even going back to 110 or 108. But I think that's a healthy retest right there. I don't think there's anything to worry about. But also at the same time, it keeps making lower highs from here, lower high, lower high. So this is essentially what I'm looking at in that 110 zone, just to like get the average of it all. And what I'm really looking at here is on log scale for resistance for NVIDIA. And it's going to be that purple line right there. So let me just zoom out. Yeah, from there to there, you can see how like the 2.618 was resistance, then it flipped to a support, then it came back down. Wait, let me get rid of this line for you guys. Then it came back down during that scary Monday crash, right? And it held that as a support, so it flipped it as a support. But now that 125 level right there, that's going to be a massive resistance zone because it's proven to be resistance. So that's what I'm really paying attention to. I want 110, 108 to hold, and I want eventually to get bullish again. I need weekly candles to continue to close back above that 125. And until that happens, I don't know if it's ready to go higher yet. So we'll see. I think it's just more patience with this one too, because it already just recovered pretty nicely from 93. And from there, 93 straight up to 130. That's a pretty big increase. So just let it cool down a little bit, maybe come back down to the 110 zone. And I think that could be a good opportunity. Oh, Tesla Tracker's here. Good morning. Good morning. Let's take a look. Let's see. ARK, ARKK. How's that looking? 44.43. Market's going to open in 13 minutes. So if you guys remember, on Friday, I put a post that I want a new monthly candle. I didn't really say it. I said pay attention to 44.35. And I want basically a new monthly candle to open above 44.35. And why is that? Because if you go to the monthly Ichimoku, that is going to be this is I already told my Patreon members about this on Friday, but this 45.69, this conversion line, this is going to open at 44.35, right? Or it's going to come down to 44.35. So that means that 44.35 is going to be the conversion line starting in a couple of minutes, maybe 12 minutes. And that means this monthly candle is going to open for the first time. Well, hopefully, right? Maybe price will go down a little bit lower, right? But that means it'll probably open above both the conversion line and the baseline for the first time, right? The first time in how long, you ask? Well, the first time since maybe back in 2021. So 3 years, right? The first time in 3 years that this is looking like it's going to open a monthly candle above both. And that is significant because that could signal like the growth stocks are ready to finally outperform, right? It finally ready to go up. And you can just see they have been trending up since the bottom, which is good, but it still has been stuck under a lot of resistance on the monthly chart. So if it can open above both, then that means there's going to be room to go much higher because you don't have these resistance levels anymore. And that kind of means that it could be the birth of something beautiful for growth stocks, for Kathy Wood, for ARKK. So let's see. Let's see what happens. Still got another 11 minutes before the market opens. So let's make sure that it close or opens above that 44.35 level, right? Let's see. Yeah, so those are my thoughts on ARKK, GA Mom. Let's take a look at SMCI, see how that's developing here. Is it going to go down to 230? That could be a possibility, right? You can see how major of a support that 230 was on log scale, right? So far, I still am sticking to my linear scale chart here for SMCI, and I still think that it's going to go down to 370, maybe 340. I think that's the idea for SMCI. It just looks like it wants to retest levels, and that's the direction it's going. So, am I worried about it long term? Not really, because it's a really bullish chart. So, it's just a normal breakout back test happening right now for SMCI. So, just got to be a little bit patient here. And I think it could be an opportunity down in that zone, 370, 340, and definitely an opportunity if it ever got back down to this zone right here, like 230. That would be an amazing opportunity, I think, because look at that. Look at how beautiful that is. A breakout, back test, and then breakout to resistance and a back test and continuation higher, right? But it's not guaranteed to get there because it could just come back to that 350 level, 370 level, and just back test the previous high right here and then continue higher too. So one step at a time, but I do think it's still headed lower. It could go up before it goes lower, but I think the trend is still going to be lower over the next weeks or months for SMCI. Okay, let's see here. How are the futures? Oh, they're weakening still, right? 150 down. Let's see. How's CrowdStrike looking this morning? It's right at resistance, right? That's what you can see here. It opened the or didn't even open. Once it went down below that blue level, V bottom, it just went straight up back to it and got rejected. And that was 280, right? So I think it might still struggle in that zone and probably go back down, maybe find some support somewhere and then can go higher. But yeah, 280 is resistance, a big resistance for CrowdStrike. And it was kind of obvious because of this blue level, right? And eventually, I think it's going to be able to close this gap up here too. So we'll be a little bit patient. The 300s up here, but still, it's still a healthy recovery. It's just going to probably consolidate for a bit before it's able to break free. And what else we got here? Maybe look at some of the miners. Let's look at CLSK. Yeah, so this one pre-market's down 10.15. Yeah. What I really think is happening with all the miners is they're looking for their support. And I think it's a very possible situation that it's near, right? I think a lot of them they have not gone lower than this early August low here, and I think as long as they can hold these levels going into the future weeks, then that could just start building a base to go higher, and then it's not necessary to come back down to the lower levels to retest their lower support, right? So we got to really what I'm really paying attention to is the early August lows for all of the miners, really. Just got to make sure they hold. And Mara is a lot higher above those, really. So that's looking a lot better. And let's see, Cypher. Yeah, it's still holding those levels too. But again, if they are lost, then they will head to the lower support levels. And like for Cypher, that means maybe below $3 again, right? And for CLSK, that could mean down here around $8, right? For Mara, I don't know if it's ready to go down there just because there's still some support with the moving averages. Let's see here. Yeah, there's still some support right here with the 1369 for the 100 week moving average for Mara. So some of them don't look like they want to go down to their next levels because there's still lots of support before that. But others like Cypher, if they lose this support here, then it's very possible to go back down. So really got to pay attention to these levels here for a lot of the miners. And on my Patreon, I go over them every single day. So if you guys want to get a day-to-day replay of everything, just go ahead and subscribe there. And Wolf, yeah, Wolf is looking better than most, right? Still above a lot of support. So that's why I like it. Let's see Cores, how that one's doing. Yeah, it's a little bit down pre-market, but the main thing for Cores that I'm looking at is it's still stuck under that 1060 resistance. So it has to prove it to me by flipping it to a support. And so far it has not done that. So, but still, it's very bullish. It's a very, very bullish chart. EOS. Yeah. Take a look at EOS. So very bullish. I said 290. It got pretty close, right? It got to 281. So it's pretty close to resistance. Anywhere from 290 all the way up to 320. That is a resistance zone. So do I like it up here? Not as much as I liked it down here, right? Once it started breaking into the cloud and flipping all these to support, that's when you want to like stuff. You don't want to really like it up here because it's pretty close to resistance. So no, I think for me, I would just wait for things to come back down. And on the daily chart, maybe back to the 230s or 210s, right? I think that could be an opportunity for a buy possibly, right? But up here, it's just too close to support or too close to resistance, I should say. All right. What else we got here? Oh, let's look at coin. So, one thing I mentioned for my Patreon subscribers is that coin entered a support zone, right? On Friday. It went down there and finally touched the cloud, right? We can go back in time and we can see it broke out and it finally touched the cloud for the very, very first time since it broke out here in October of 2023. So I am liking this more and more. And because I like it, that means maybe it could be a good sign for Bitcoin, right? Maybe Bitcoin is going to find its bottom too. Because look at all the support levels for coin. First you got the cloud, then the 50 week, and then if it goes a little bit lower, I'll like it even more, right? Like down to the 160s or so. That's within the cloud. That's a lot of support. But if it stays on top of the cloud, and then it'll eventually start to build up towards my GAN levels there. And I think what I'm really looking at for coin is eventually breaking that 210 and getting back above that as the major resistance level. So let's see if coin can do that. But the lower it goes right here, the more I like it. The more I like it a lot. Yeah, it's a good zone. So IWM, could it be similar to ARKK? Well, ARKK, what's that at? I mean, let's just look at the weekly chart for ARKK. It is still has resistance, right? It's still not on top of the cloud. So it's not really similar to IWM since IWM is way above the weekly cloud, right? This chart is way more bullish than ARKK, right? But I think ARKK has the possibility, once it breaks on top of the cloud here, to do something similar to what IWM did, right? From when it was like maybe 180s all the way to current price. So I see that as a potential for ARKK, right? So this is something that I'm really watching closely now because it tried to do it here, but you go to the monthly chart, it couldn't because of the resistance on the monthly chart, right? But now, if it opens above 44.35, it'll have less resistance above until it gets back to 54 bucks up here, right? So this is looking like it has a really good possibility to do something similar to IWM, but it's still lagging IWM. It's not as bullish as IWM, but it has the potential now, right? As long as it continues to break these monthly resistance levels one at a time, and this is looking like a perfect setup as long as it opens above that 44.35, right? So we're gonna watch the open here and maybe 15 seconds. So this 45.69 conversion line, that's going to change to 45.35. And we'll see that happen in 5 seconds. And there we go. Well, actually, it changed to 44.64. What? It should have been 45.65 or 45.35. But that's okay, right? It's still in that zone, right? Still in that zone. Yeah, because if you take the high or the low here, what's the low? Yeah, it's 41.58, right? Oh, I know what happened really because they didn't take that wick. Because remember the wick went down there to the 36s. That I think something happened with the trading view because last week or last month that wick went down to the 36s and now all of a sudden it just disappeared. So it kind of changed the math. But when the wick gets corrected, the math will go back to the 44.35. So all right. Let's see. Tesla, yeah, 216. Nvidia, 115. And Apple 228 in phase. Yeah. Everything looks like it's at resistance. You can tell by how the futures are acting. And let's see, IWM, it still has, still has a ways to go to test some support. Maybe the QQQ at 472, maybe at 463. I can see some support there. SPY, it is kind of flat, right? 0.5. I think, what we really see here for a lot of levels is maybe they want to just retest some support, right? And the good news is, like, a lot of things open up above support, and that one of them was ARKK, even though, see, here on the weekly chart, it has that wick down to 36, but that monthly chart, there it goes. Yeah, but it's still not calculating it correctly. But essentially, what's really happening is things are looking really good, right? They're looking good because they're retesting support. Tesla's going up to resistance. NVIDIA is going down to that 113 level. Essentially, nothing really to worry about here. Just a normal thing because prices were close to a resistance. So let's just take it one day at a time and let them hit some support levels. But if things do break out of their resistance, then I'll get a lot more excited. Yeah. NVIDIA is doing what it should be doing, what I said pre-market, right? Going back down to that 113 zone. So I think it's okay. It's perfectly healthy, perfectly normal. And just let the market do what it's supposed to do. And we'll take it one day at a time. And I'll see you guys tomorrow.